Do you remember this?
I hear you have some news for us.
I've got a new product,
Okay.
and we're calling it Manticore. It's pretty awesome.
So tell me what makes Manticore different.
Well, it's probably the big thing is it's got more power just coming out of the product into the ground. And it's going to like light up the ground more for customers. It's going to find more.
That's what we're disputing today.
And on top of that, we've got like better algorithms in there that actually do the discrimination. And then to cap it all off, we've got like new visualizations. We've actually got a 2D screen that shows, what's going on with the targets to help you make decisions.
Yeah, nobody here is disputing it's a awesome detector. Here's mine charging up. And that second part about inference, tools that help you inference, it is spot on. But that first part about the power. And this is where my super smart viewers come in. I've admitted this before and admitted it again. When I'm over my head with a topic, I reach out for people who know what they're doing in that given topic. Electricity and the tech side of metal detecting, we're reaching out. This is a email from Dan Blankenship. Merrill, I'm searching for the published output power of the Nocta Macro Legend. I found all of the Minelab machines are outputting the FCC maximum power level of 1 watt, which translates to Greek. The Deus 2 reports a slightly higher power level. The manuals posted online don't mention this information for the Legend, but I'm sure it was included in the documentation when you purchased the machine. The Legend has to follow the same rules as all of the other metal detectors, metal detecting companies out there. Let's stick to Minelab for the time being. Now, Dan goes on to tell us that as defined in FCC Part 15.247i, this will be linked to in the video description, the power transmitted by the transmitter can only have a maximum power level of 1 watt or 30 dBm. Okay, let that sink in for a second. All right, so we got Gabby here, and she's got hair dryer. There's a point to this, okay? Now we're going to scare the dogs, not for the sake of scaring the dogs, but can you show the 2 modes of this hair dryer?
There's off.
I guess that's 3 modes. Yeah.
Low.
More power.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Which mode is going to dry hair fastest?
Off.
She messes with people just like her dad. What?
High. Yeah, high.
More power.
Exactly. High.
Yeah.
Do you know what this is about?
More power.
No.
More power just coming out of the product into the ground. And it's going to like light up the ground more.
I swear I have a point. Why has the depth evolution of metal detectors stopped? You could look no further than the FCC. Oh, the deeper down the wormhole I go. Bro, it's a rabbit hole. That's what I meant. I've been buying metal detecting magazines from the 1970s. And right smack in the middle of this book is some really interesting stuff. Look at this line. This is from 1979. Here, wait. Gene Dixon predicts for 1979. Now, look here, 10 to 18 inches below the present surface of the ground. We've been going deep for a long time. I discovered an amazingly rich trove of treasures that tell a great deal. Listen, man, they've been going deep for a long time. We've been going deep for a long time. The hurdle is the hard cap on the transmitting power that was put in place by the FCC. There's actually a thread on TreasureNet about this. Look at this response from Kentucky Cash. I'm not sure about the power limit of detectors, but I know the FCC regulates frequency usage. Otherwise, your detector would be opening your garage door. He. The FCC also does this for our safety. There's a certain amount of radiation that is emitted from products, and that can cause cancer. So that is one of the reasons that it is regulated. If nothing else, this cements in my head the way that you go deeper is with a bigger coil. Of course, you'll have issues with separation in, places like New York City where there's bottle caps everywhere. And this is where the story gets a little extra interesting, because the day after I released this video, which is doing very well, better than any video that I had ever released, I get a phone call from Mark Laurie at Minelab.
More power.
To him for reaching out. And at the end of the day, we all have to live with ourselves. Welcome to my classroom, where I work people extremely hard. I like to feel good about the work that I do, and that's not just in my classroom, but also on YouTube. This was Meryl behaving badly because, like, look at the thumbnail that I put, and, who did I not give a chance to respond? Minelab. Despite Meryl behaving badly, Mark offered to offer his input on our questions. So let's start with clarifying what we have raised so far, and then we will progress further into this video. Does the FCC put any limits on metal detector companies on power output? And this, of course, includes what Dan Blankenship brought up, transmitter power. So this was Mark's response to that, Mark and Minelab. Yes, all products, including metal detectors, must abide by the FCC limits. The FCC is concerned primarily with limiting a product's maximum radiated power, which is liable to interfere with the correct operation of nearby equipment. This is generally at very high frequencies that are far above the operating frequencies of a metal detector. The Minelab FCC statements pointed to are intended to facilitate the importation of the product into different countries and do not have any significance to metal detector performance. All right, so there's FCC regulations. That was just verified. So that's something that we've all speculated. We just heard it from Minelab. 2, Minelab also said that that is not affecting the performance of their detectors. But we have more digging to do. Let's continue with this video. Now, in instruction manuals, it's common practice to list the output power of a product. And if you go to the next to last page of the Equinox manual, page 67, and you scroll to the bottom, take a look at this. Detector gives the frequency and it gives the power. But what about the Manticore? Shouldn't they show that information in the user manual like they do with the Equinox? That was Meryl trying to be funny with the animation there. Sorry. Well, I tell you what, let's do a search. DBM. Is that anywhere in the manual? It sure does not look like it. Oh, don't you worry, we found it, and it's from Minelab. As we know, and as we've heard, Minelab works really hard on the branding of this detector. And it is clear in the branding they say more power, more depth, more fines. Another example, take a look at this Instagram post that was posted 3 days before this video came out. In 5 weeks, the high-power Minelab Manticore and Equinox 700 and 900 models will be on display at the IWA Outdoor Classics 2023, Nuremberg, Germany. The Germans love the power. Americans love the truth. Let's go find the truth, shall we? What you're looking for is this. Minelab Instructions and Safety Information. Now you are navigating really small print here. Really small. But you have the various names of the models of the detectors. Oh, look, there's the Manticore. Yeah, that is the same power output as everything else. Okay, so time for our next question to Mark. According to the graphic, why are the Vanquish, CTX 3030, Equinox, Go Find, Excalibur 2, etc. listed with the same power level as the Manticore? So here's Minelab's response. As described earlier, the power levels in the graphic refer to the radiated limits, not the actual power used by our metal detectors to energize targets. A metal detector produces a low-frequency, reactive magnetic field, which is different to the radiated RF energy that the FCC monitors. Therefore, this graphic is not useful to compare the performance of metal detectors. Wait, what? Let's take this word for word. As described earlier, the power levels in the graphic refer to the radiated limits, not the actual power used by our metal detectors to energize targets. They just gave us nunya. A metal detector produces a low-frequency, reactive magnetic field, which is different to the radiated RF energy that the FCC monitors. Nunya as in none of your business. Therefore, this graphic is not useful to compare the performance of metal detectors. If the graphic was not useful, why put it in the box? It must have been a regulation of some sort that they have to disclose. Compliance for nunya. But that's just saying that the number is less than infinity. Not infinity, but 30 dBm, which could be anywhere. So again, it's not really transparency right there. Like, what are the power levels of the Manticore versus the Equinox detectors, whether it be the old ones or the new ones? Very vague, and I think purposefully vague. Minelab said,
None your business.
but let's keep going with the old video. Now, before we take a deep dive into those numbers, check out this clip on how metal detectors work from the YouTube channel True Vikings. I recommend that you check them out.
A metal detector contains this coil. There's two different coils or wires going around this one, and one of them is the transmitter coil. When electricity flows through this coil, an electromagnetic field is created all around this coil.
That's the part that's limited by the buzzkill FCC.
And when you sweep around the ground, the electromagnetic field follows with the coil. If you move the coil or metal detector over a metal object, the electromagnetic field that is created affects the atoms inside this metal object. In fact, it changes how the electrons move. Electrons are the tiny particles that orbit atoms. The metal detector creates some electrical activity inside the metal object, and when there is electricity inside a metal object, it also creates electromagnetism. So when you move the coil over a metal object, the electromagnetic field that comes from the coil creates also an electromagnetic field around this metal object. It's this second magnetic field that this metal detector picks up. A metal detector also contains a different coil here that is called the receiver coil, and when it picks up a second magnetic field from this metal object, that receiver coil transports it to the circuit here and the loudspeakers that make those cool beep sounds.
So I'm going to cut that video right there, and I recommend that you watch the rest on True Vikings. It's their video. I just wanted to take a little excerpt from it. So it's linked. All you have to do is hit the I button. But what about these numbers? Now, I'm not out to get Minelab, but they didn't exactly disclose what the power output is. Well, they did now. They said it was nunya. All they're saying is less than 30 dBm. But the point is there is a hard ceiling put in place by the FCC. And it's not like they're sitting in the Minelab factory and thinking like, we better not use all of that hard cap because we need to make future detectors and say more power then. You better believe they used all of that cap on the Equinox, on the CTX. You named the detector, they were right there. It's a market economy. Minelab has competitors. Why would they lower the power on other detectors. Another question on the power.
Okay. What about, is it to the 3030 power-wise? Equivalent? Oh, okay then.
And there's 50% more power electric.
So that's equivalent at a much cheaper price. So you're not concerned? Are you concerned that people are not going to buy the 3030 now?
It's a different product. There are features on the 3030 that make it different.
Okay, yeah.
We've definitely taken some things from 3030 and put it into the product.
Okay, you're on YouTube. I'm just asking what these guys are asking, man. So yeah.
Hear this rant, and then let's really discuss. Oh, and there's one more question to Minelab too. You just heard the quote right there. How is it possible that 50% more power is going into the ground? Like, I get it. They did the thing less than 30 dBm. They don't disclose exactly what it is, but we also know that there's a hard cap. More power into the ground. Minelab, are you saying that the higher sensitivity on the Manticore, in other words, the number going up to 35 versus 25 on the original Equinoxes, is the more power? We are not stupid, and it does not work that way. That's like cutting a pizza into 35 versus 25. But you know what? It's still a pizza. You know what you did? You just gave us ludicrous speed. You remember Spaceballs and ludicrous speed? They didn't really go ludicrous speed. Come on, this is marketing. This is pure marketing. What ludicrous speed does not do is it does not get you any deeper in the ground. And what you said is 50% more power into the ground? Come on, man. I've used the Manticore for about 2 months now, and I made a video about the one pull that I felt was really substantial. But for the most part, anything and everything that I've gotten, I feel that I could have pulled with the Minelab Equinox. And the old ones, what Minelab did do is create modern target separation on metal detectors. Everybody is trying to equal themselves to what the Equinox brought. Can it get any better? Marginally, but it's almost like comparing a television from 2016 versus 2023. You're really not going to be able to notice the difference. The Equinox also enabled us to get smaller targets. And if you think about it, those small targets would confuse metal detectors a generation ago, like they were there, but they were not there. The Equinox made it clear. We will close with some of the wisdom of Dan Blankenship. Not closing yet. Let me read this. I figured that the marketing department at Minelab can make those claims due to the addition of the new lower 2.5 kilohertz frequency to the multi-IQ family of frequencies in the transmitter section and the increased computing capabilities in the receiver section. The lower frequencies penetrate deeper, so the deeper part is justifiable, and the higher computing can be construed as more power. And listen very carefully to this. This makes a perfect formula for the marketing team to spin the details and sell more machines. Have you seen the price for the 800s on eBay? Some are selling in the $500 range, so it's working. Dan has worked for Microsoft, by the way, and he's been metal detecting since 1976.
And there's 50% more power electric.
So that's equivalent at a much cheaper price.
We're committed to the truth here, and I'm open to any responses from Minelab. And if it can be proven that I'm wrong, that Dan is wrong, we'll do another video that fixes that. But we're committed to the truth. Now let's really talk. To Mark Laurie especially, I'm so sorry. I was trying to be funny, like everything with the thing from Iron Man where you're, hitting the ground with more power. I was trying to be funny. For the record, I spoke to him. He did not complain about that. There's a reason that I've bought 20 detectors in my life. Metal detecting is a topic that absolutely fascinates me. And, all the time, multiple times per year, I've reinvested what I earn on YouTube, and I try to enhance my worldview. I read and I study and I experience. But in terms of creating the art for us, Minelab does that, and they are the Picasso of the era. Before we finish this video, let me say to Mark and his teammates at Minelab, thank you for the artistry. The flip side of that is people understand that I have been building my inventory of detectors on my channel because I want to be able to speak on them. And I think that people do trust my word. And I feel the responsibility to that as well. That's why I chose to take my first viral video down. It's taken me 700 videos, people. It's down because you know what? Minelab did not get a chance to defend themselves. It was wrong of me. But you know what? Let's move on to the final question. And let's get an answer to what you all want to know. What does 50% more power going into the ground mean in Minelab's words? Manticore delivers 50% more electrical power to the coil transmitter compared to the Equinox series. This results in a larger magnetic field that surrounds the coil and couples with any nearby metal targets, making them easier to detect at depth. This is especially apparent when the detector is limited by EMI. You will notice that the Manticore can target better in these environments. This video does a reasonable job at answering this question. And here is a link to the video that Mark was referring to. All you have to do is hit the I button and you'll see it. It's from Paul C.
Obviously we're comparing this quite a bit to the Equinox and the TTX. In terms of depth, what is the improvement? Where does it lie?
So to answer that question, I'll start with, it's got more battery capacity.
Yep.
And we chose to convert that into more depth.
Right.
So it's 50% more power. That's 50% more power, that's not 50% more depth. So when the magnetic field comes out of the coil, it drops off pretty quickly. So it actually, probably an easy way to answer it is for a target that you might be hitting at 30 centimeters, you might get about 2 to 3 centimeters more depth, typically.
Okay.
However, sometimes with like a small target, like in my tour of Europe, I've seen lots of small gold jewelry and chains like that, and we're seeing like quite a bit more depth on those. So it really depends on the field, the size of the target, the conditions, but suffice to say we're putting more power into the ground, so it's going to be beating the Equinox.
So you're beating the Equinox and probably matching something like CTX?
Yeah, for CTX, which is quite good at low frequency targets or big targets that are high conductors, this will be a match to CTX.
It's great to get my hands on it, actually feels really good, I like it.
What I'm seeing so far is Equinox level pulls, but I'm using it on a lot of sites that I've used the 15-inch coil with the Equinox, and that's not a fair comparison. I would need the bigger coil for the Manticore to truly see, and yes, I'm going to invest in that.
So it's 50% more power. That's 50% more power, that's not 50% more depth. Probably an easy way to answer it is for a target that you might be hitting at 30 centimeters, you might get about 2 to 3 centimeters more depth, typically.
Okay.
What made me say this, it seems that Minelab lied about the Manticore is mostly due to this manual. I mean, when you hear 50% more power and then you see in the power column that all of the detectors are 30 dBm. Throw in the fact that there are now verified FCC guidelines on power output. You start to question things. And that's exactly what I did. And guess what? I believed every word that went into that theory, and I had some very bright people backing me with that and helping with that research. So, yes, did I believe it? I sure did. And what do you believe right now, Merrill? Merrill believes he's ready to swing a metal detector. I believe the power level insert into the Manticore box is completely pointless and led us on this tangent, this conspiracy theory. I believe that Minelab can learn something from this too. I think you have a intelligent and passionate audience who really care tremendously about transparency. The whole point of this is to get around marketing, to see through marketing, because there's more than this. More power, more depth, more finds. I think that this is our clarity.
So it's 50% more power. That's 50% more power, that's not 50% more depth. Probably an easy way to answer it is for a target that you might be hitting at 30 centimeters, you might get about 2 to 3 centimeters more depth, typically.
Okay.
And 3 centimeters is about 1.181 inches. And like we say in metal detecting, on to the next. I'll see you on the next video. We're not done testing the Manticore yet. We're going to see what it can really do. And we're going to be honest about it. That's the most important thing. Thank you.